Guys, what's up? It's Ripe again. In today's video, my psycho homeowner association threatens to hurt me for having a so-called illegal barbecue. She calls the cops on me and ends up shooting my cat when we don't obey her orders. I ended up suing her and teaching her a lesson. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. So I have been reading all of these stories about crazy HOA members and things they get away with. Well, I want to tell you one about an HOA where I live in the Philippines, since I feel like ours don't get talked about as often. Now, I don't want to speak for the entire country, but where I live there is a lot of corruption and it extends all the way to the HOA. If you are in one and have a neighbor you don't like, you can give money to the HOA leader and they will fine your neighbors for things they did not even do. It is such a mess that you can imagine how crazy situations between neighbors can get sometimes. My neighbor is not in charge of the HOA but holds a position that gives her a little bit of power. Her husband is also a police officer that falls into corruption of his own, so getting on their bad side can be dangerous. I get into arguments with this neighbor a lot because she has a big problem with me cooking meat outside since she is a vegan and does not agree with it. One day I am holding a small barbecue party outside for some of my friends, and before it even starts my neighbor comes over to speak to me. "Neighbor, I can smell that you are cooking meat over there." Me, I'm having a barbecue, so yeah, of course. I can cook whatever food I want on my own property. If you don't like it, then stay away from my yard. "Neighbor, you are murdering innocent animals and forcing me to stand by and watch." Me, you don't have to watch anything. "Go inside your house and stay away from me." Neighbor, I'm going to call the HOA leader and tell him that you are cooking animals outside. This is clearly illegal and torture to do this next door to me. And well, I don't care because I know that there is nothing wrong with having a barbecue and just continue to cook and prepare food. I have no idea if she really called the HOA leader, but I do know for a fact that she calls the police because they show up to see what the problem was. I am lucky that it was not her husband and instead other police that were not as corrupt enough to stop a legal barbecue. They asked me what I was doing, and after I told them, they just warned me to not get too loud with the party and went to talk to my neighbor. She was told that they could not do anything since everything going on was legal, and she got then very upset. I heard her yell that the police were meant to protect the citizens and they were not doing anything about the fact that she was being tortured. She did go inside though, and soon my guests arrived. It was a small event and we made sure to not be too loud and respect the people around us with that. Everybody loved the food and I did not hear one peep from my neighbor the entire time, so I assumed after the police incident she had just given up. I knew she would be back to annoy me about cooking meat another day. One other important thing to note is that I have a cat that is surprisingly very friendly. My cat came out of the house and into the yard and hung out with everybody. He rubbed against their legs and had a few cat treats before going to his favorite outdoor spot to relax. He loves this one spot on the fence and can lay out there for hours in the sun. Just minutes later and we hear a gunshot and basically all go down to the ground in fear. We don't know where it came from, but it was extremely loud and close to us all. After a minute of silence, we started to get up, and that was when I noticed two things. The first was that my cat was bleeding, and the second being that my neighbor was holding a gun. I was both scared and furious, but pushed both those feelings down to make sure that my cat was okay. The bullet just grazed him, so he didn't seem too hurt, but I wanted to get him checked out right away. The party was basically over anyway, because after seeing my neighbor shooting a gun, the mood was gone and people wanted to get home and far away from my neighbor. Before I forgot to mention, I of course called the police right after this happened. However, my neighbor quickly got into her car after this incident and took off, making a quick escape. The police took witness statements. Unfortunately though, seeing how corrupt the police force is where I live, and considering that Karen's husband is a part of it, I was not expecting much, and the case would probably end up on the table of some fat police constable with stacks of unresolved cases resting there. My cat was terrified and trying to limp away before I could get him in a carrier and take him to the vet. I was right that the bullet just grazed and did not hit anything or stay in the body. He needed some stitches though, and the vet said he might limp for the rest of his life because it did hit some nerves. This was my limit for dealing with my neighbor, and I was finally ready to do something about this. I got a lawyer and decided to sue her for attempting to kill my cat. The hardest part would be to try and prove that she was aiming for the cat and it was not just some kind of accident. It turns out there was a much bigger issue at hand. It turns out that she did not have a license to be even holding the gun. As corrupt as things are here, we still take gun laws very seriously, and if you're gonna wield one, you need to have a license. She did not have one, and it was even dug up by my lawyer that she failed to get a license when she tried because she could not even pass the safety testing. Something that for many people is just common sense. So the question you might be wondering is, then how did she get a gun? Well, it turns out that it was her husband's gun and then the heat of the situation got turned onto him. As an officer, it is his responsibility to make sure that his gun is kept locked and secure at all times. Now both of them were getting in trouble for the situation and you can tell that he was not happy with her because of it. I mentioned that he was very corrupt before, and now that an investigation was involved, he was worried about some past things getting dug up and exposed. It did not really matter what her story was regarding the gun because she should not have been holding it to begin with. Adding in that she would have been shooting out an open window and the police call not going her way, revenge was seen as highly possible. We could have honestly tried to fight for the fact that the gun was meant to shoot me, but that would have been much harder to prove than her aiming for my cat who did get shot. She ended up having to pay for the vet bills and also take courses in gun safety. Finally, because of this, she was banned from attempting to get another gun license, and her husband ended up losing his job because the police did not want a story like that getting out and finding out that he was still working despite not storing his gun correctly. With him not working for the police anymore, it made her lose a lot of her power and intimidation within the HOA. She had been using his position to benefit herself and now she is not able to do that anymore. Meanwhile, I still enjoy cooking meat outside and now she really cannot do anything to try and stop me anymore. Update to the story: sometime after this happened, we discovered that another neighbor of mine actually had a live stream camera pointed at his garden area. This was meant to discourage entitled people from illegally misusing his pool. However, since the camera was constantly turning, it also captured the moment of Karen pointing the gun at us and screaming and screeching obscenities as well as threatening to end our lives. With the new evidence in tow, Karen actually ended up behind bars for a year, and as you might know, prison cells around here are no joke. I hope Karen enjoys her new friends behind bars. And the next one is titled Getting Revenge on Douchebags. My family went to our local school to watch my child perform in an orchestra. My mother met us there and I waited outside in order to get her walker out of her car and help her inside. When she arrived, I was dismayed to find out that all of the handicapped parking spots were taken and 2 of the 4 were by vehicles not sporting a tag or plate. My mother had to park in the grass and struggled to walk even with her walker. So I helped my mother inside to her seat and excused myself so I could get to work. There was a bit more legwork involved than what I was expecting, but the payoff was satisfying. I had to call the non-emergency police number, describe the situation, describe the infracting vehicles, and read the license plate numbers. I was not expecting any results. When the performance was over, we went outside just in time to watch the owners of the cars rip the tickets off. No, they were not disabled in any obvious way, just lazy pieces of crap. The next one is titled Should Not Have Messed With Me. For a little context, I am a construction worker with my own company truck. As far as from what I've seen in my area, most people with company trucks have this thing where the front 2 seats always stay very clean. Aside from dirt that comes from working in my field of work, the back seats, however, are a different story. It is amazing how much trash gets thrown back there, whether it be water bottles, snack wrappers, food wrappers, etc. My company has a contract with a local detailer that comes and washes and vacuums all company trucks bi-weekly to keep the appearance up that we are just responsible for removing all large trash so they don't have too much work to do. Usually we just throw out everything at the dumpster at the shop before the detailer goes in and works his magic. Anyways, onto the story. So today I had just finished up a service call and was about to go on my lunch break. I had stopped at a local gas station near downtown Austin to pour gas right before I headed off to get some tacos. As I am pouring gas, I look in the back of my tailgate and realized I forgot to throw away at the job site and did not want to run the risk of it flying out and possibly causing an accident, so naturally I decide to take it out, break the box down and toss it in the trash can at the pump. Now, the box itself was not too big, about the size of a shoebox, and once broken down, it was probably about a quarter of that size. As I took the broken down box and placed it in the trash, one of the ladies who worked at the gas station came out furious, saying that I was not allowed to throw away that box. She claimed the trash was only for smaller items and we were not allowed to throw away larger things. I was really confused and told her that it really was not all that big and I did not see an issue with it. She then argued that the cardboard can unravel and fill up the bin and then she would have to replace the bags. I did not feel like arguing, so I just obliged and took out the box and placed it back in the tailgate. She thanked me for not being so difficult and was about to go into the gas station before I stopped her and asked, "So then, what can I throw away in the trash?" She replied with anything small like water bottles, taco bags, wrappers, etc. Now cue the malicious compliance. After she said that, I thanked her for letting me know and proceeded to open the back door to my truck and she got a hold of all the mess. I then proceeded to take out small loads of empty water bottles, taco bags, etc. It's truly amazing how much trash builds up in these construction trucks. Unless one had been recently cleaned out, I've never seen one with little to no mess. I think I'm pretty good at tossing the stuff out of my truck, but every 2 weeks when I submit my truck for cleaning, it always baffles me with how much mess is in there. I then proceed to stuff the trash can with trash and fill it up. Now granted, these trash cans already had trash in them and were not all that big and I did not really press down the trash to make more fit. I then proceeded to move to the next trash can and started filling that one up as well, all while looking at her with the biggest smirk on my face. She then proceeded to tell me that I cannot be throwing out that much stuff because it's only meant for small things that I bought from the store. I then proceeded to show her that almost all of this stuff can be bought at the store that she was working at. She then screams at me that saying that there's no way I bought everything there and that I probably got some from other places as well. I then pulled out my company gas card that was from her gas station and told her that this was the only gas station that I'm allowed to use while in this vehicle, so yes, I come to this store a lot since it is right by my job and most of this, other than the taco wrappers, come from here. She then proceeded to call me an a-hole and a few other names as she stormed off into the store. I just sat there with a huge feeling of accomplishment knowing that I dealt with that Karen accordingly. If she would have just let me thrown out the small box, you would not have to come out and replace the trash bags right now and could be sitting inside on your phone, but now you have to come out and do the job you're getting paid to do. It must suck to actually have to do what you were hired to do, all because you thought some small pieces of cardboard would fill up one little trash can. Little words of advice, next time, mind your own business. And the next one is titled Revenge on Littering Idiot. Walking through my residential neighborhood on the left side sidewalk, a humongous black pickup truck drives up from behind. He pauses a long while in an intersection for no apparent reason and then casually sticks his hand out of the driver's window and drops a wetted piece of garbage right onto the street. Okay, I'm a coward. I should have dashed out, grabbed the garbage, chased him down, etc., but I am a woman in my 60s and just not capable of a potentially dangerous confrontation. I am, however, an a-hole capable of delayed pettiness. So he makes a U-turn and parks at the house just beyond the intersection, a house undergoing construction. I glare at him uselessly as I pass, but he is parking and not paying me any attention. Okay, jerkface, let's see. Construction site, big shiny pickup truck, takeout food. Obviously, it's some out-of-town contractor who thinks he can roll up and spew garbage all over my neighborhood. Plan formulated, if the truck is still there, if its window is open, if the contractor is out of sight, and most importantly, if I can find the garbage. Well, 20 minutes later on my walk back, I take a careful look as I go by. The petty gods smile upon me. Truck there, window open, voices in the house, but no one in sight, and there is the food wrapper in the gutter. Yellow with some orange, potentially Taco Bell. There's one at the foot of the boulevard at the beach. I snag it, cross over to the opposite side of the street, backtrack a bit, cross back over, and then I walk past again and chuck the wrapper through the passenger side window, covering the action by pretending to adjust my hat, and then I stroll on. Yeah, I'm sure he just tossed it out the window again, but maybe he will pause for a moment to wonder who exactly is watching him and what judgment the gods are passing upon him. And the next one is titled Mother-in-Law Troubles. So my mother-in-law, I'm a girl by the way, came to stay with us for a few weeks until her home is renovated for Christmas. The problem is that she has been randomly walking in on me while I am in the bathroom. Thankfully, not once has she seen me naked because I started picking up on her behavior after the second time in a week. She would barge in and then turns and says, "Oh sorry," and then close the door. I tried talking to my husband about it, but he kept ignoring me and then flat out said, "So what if she actually has seen you naked? She is family." He seriously said that. We have a lock and I could have used it, but I have past trauma from the idea of locking and being locked in a room after my brother locked me in the bathroom when I was 5. So I came up with this idea. I would go inside the bathroom pretending to use it and wait for her to come, because honestly, it is clearly deliberate at this point. When she accidentally barges in and she would see me in a weird/awkward position. For example, doing a ballet stand, standing on a toilet, or standing facing the wall with my hands up, fully clothed of course. I could see how awkward and weird this would be for her, because she would stand there for a few seconds trying to figure out what I was doing. It was hilarious at first seeing her initial confusion, but she told my husband about it, claiming she has caught me practicing rituals in the bathroom. I cleared things up and revealed the reason why. My husband was livid. He called me childish and said that I made his mom feel terrified and weirded out by my behavior. He said I should have acted maturely and locked the damn door instead of playing mind games. And yeah, Ripe Stars, obviously this mother-in-law is weirded out because she is just a weirdo herself. I feel like OP is 100% not in the wrong here, and there is really no reason for mother-in-law to barge in when OP is in the bathroom. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. And a user in the comments said, "Number 1, not the a-hole. You went the funny way and that's dope. Your husband, however, is an a-hole. He expects you to be mature about it, but he does not expect his mother to knock on the damn door before walking in." Comment number 2, tell them your ritual is to summon mother-in-law to the bathroom and it is working every time. Number 3, not the a-hole, who opens a closed bathroom door. Your mother-in-law is such an a-hole, this is the weirdest power play to continually walk in on you in the bathroom. Your next post should be facing the door, giving her 2 middle fingers. The next one is titled The Worst Neighbor Ever. I've been living next door to this guy for 10 years now. He is a single man, 60 years old, and at first he seemed way too involved and overbearing and needed to control everything we did in our yard, such as what we planted and where we planted it. We could not do squat without him coming over to tell us what we should be doing instead. Most of the time we went with it just to appease him, but after a couple of years we decided to make our yard the way we wanted it instead of trying to make him happy. That is when all hell started breaking loose. He, I will call him Steve, started texting and calling and emailing daily, directing me to do all sorts of things, take a picture, run it up to the drugstore to print it out for him, always 2 copies. Example of such a task would be to run over to his house, take a before picture of a plant or bush, and then take an after picture after he has pruned it just ever so slightly. Why he wants or needs 2 copies of this is a creepy mystery. Then he would send me a picture of a random old clock he saw in a picture and would want me to locate the clock. Needle in a haystack to say the least, and purchase it for him and he would pay me back. And by the way guys, does anyone remember, I think it was the scene from SpongeBob, where Patrick had to search the hay in the needle stack? One of my all-time favorite cartoon moments. Anyway, I also had to go into his house and print out random files for him all the time because he could not figure it out himself, he said. Every single time I showed him how to do it and even sent him instructional videos, but he never stopped needing help with it and all sorts of random stuff non-stop all day. I did it all just to keep him appeased because he was super creepy. But it soon got overwhelming, and if I didn't respond and run over there to help him immediately, he would blow my phone up or come looking for me and accuse me of hiding from him. He would see that I would be leaving and he would run over and stand in front of my car to make sure that I helped him first. I started leaving the house just to breathe a little bit away from him, and he would bug me non-stop about when I would be back. When I got back, he saw it even if I tried to be sneaky about my return, and he would text and say that I saw you got home, telling me I needed to go help him at that time. If I reached out my front door to grab the mail real quick after checking that he's not out there, he immediately came out of nowhere and accosted me to do something for him. It's a nightmare, and I feel like I'm a prisoner wearing a straitjacket. As if that is not enough, Steve lurks around in the dark in his house at night. I now believe it is so that he can spy into our house easily. We noticed early on that his lights were never on when he was home, even if it was dark outside. He flips a light on for a second and then flips it back off right away. Several times per night, all throughout the nighttime sleeping hours, he would shine a light into my bedroom upstairs. It lights my whole room up and wakes me up if I happen to be sleeping. I had my son confront him about this, and he said he thought someone was stealing gas out of his car and he was checking to see if anyone was outside. His car and my upstairs bedroom are nowhere near each other. I got so creeped out after a bit that I put thick blankets over the windows on that side of the house so that I can have complete privacy from his eyes. While in his house one day, I looked out the window towards our yard to see what his view looked like, and he said, "Yeah, this is where I watch you guys from and see everything you're doing over there." Once in the middle of the night, I couldn't sleep and went outside in the pitch black and set up my camera and tripod to get some night sky shots. Within minutes, I heard a whistling coming from his pitch black yard, and he said my name in the darkness. I could not see him and I did not hear him come or go. How the heck did he know that I was out there in the middle of the night in the first place, and why did he feel the need to make sure that I knew he was there watching me? I get the willies just thinking about this incident. Super creep factor alert, my bedroom is upstairs on the side of the house that faces his house. Every single night when I go to bed, no matter what time it is, Steve also goes to bed. I only know this because he flips his upstairs light on momentarily, and when he does, it lights up my entire room, even with blinds and curtains drawn. Then he goes to the bathroom, and his toilet is right beside the window, and his window does not hide anything. We told him when we first moved in that his bathroom glass was not privacy glass and that we could see everything over there and that we have a young daughter. He has never made any effort to conceal his bathroom activities. I am super creeped out that he goes to bed whenever I do, like, okay, they are done for the night, nothing else to watch here, I might as well go to bed. I have videoed it 100 times because nobody believes that it is not just a coincidence. Every single night without fail, no matter what time it is, he will flip his upstairs bathroom light on about a minute after I go upstairs into my bedroom for the night. Over the years, we have been planting evergreen bushes along the property line to get a little privacy from him. Every time he has harassed us during planting and told us not to do it because he likes to see over here and needs us to leave him an opening at least. Obviously, we did not do that, and he has had trouble eyeballing us, so he actually paid contractors to come and dump truckloads of dirt into his yard to build it up by 3 feet all along our fence line, and now when he stands in his yard, his creepy head sticks out over top of all we did to gain privacy. Our 6-foot sections of privacy fence are now reduced to less than 4 foot from his side. Our 6 to 8 foot evergreens are now useless. His head easily peeks over top of all of them when he is standing in his yard. We have a small section of eastern red cedar trees along the front portion of the property line, which are too tall for him to peer over even after building his property up several feet up there. As soon as the final dirt and stone were hauled in and he found that he could not see over them, he went to my husband's work and harassed him about cutting them down by several feet because he needs to be able to see over them. My husband said no thanks to Steve, and he went directly to the city to complain about the trees. The city came and looked and said there was no problem with our trees and they cannot make us cut them short. The next day, Steve is out there with shovels and a hatchet digging all along the property line and cuts all the roots that he can find that come from our cedar trees. I called my husband at work to ask if he wanted to come confront him and hopefully make him stop, but he said let it go, and if they die we will just plant something taller there. So far they are still green, so we will see if he succeeded or not very soon. When he is outside working in his yard, he will be quiet as a mouse if we are not outside, but the second one of us comes out, he starts drumming on the bottom of a bucket or doing a weird scream like he got hurt. He makes these noises non-stop while we are out, and then he stops making them when he thinks we are back inside. Every single time he leaves the house, even if only for a minute, he immediately does his property line patrol walk where he inspects everything he can from his side to make sure we have made no changes since he left. He has often accused us of touching his trees and that we were not to do that because they are sentimental to him. He has also accused us of taking things out of his yard, which of course we didn't, and neither did anyone else, because a few days later I will see the missing object in his yard mysteriously again. He has all sorts of weird stuff placed around his yard, including bowling balls. He has said many times that we are not to plant anything in our yard when he is not home, and has complained to us when he has come home to find that we planted a flower somewhere. We put a lock on the gate along the side of the house because he had just always helped himself to our yard and even came into my house one day when I was in the bathroom with the door open. I made it abundantly clear that he was not to do that again, and after we put the lock on the gate he complained about it and will not drop it, saying that we are locking him out. I can see his yard from my upstairs windows, so before I would go outside I would take a quick peek to make sure he was not out so I could enjoy my yard for a minute, but every single time I went out he came out immediately. Clearly he just sits over there and watches us all day and all night. A couple of years ago I had it up all to my eyeballs and sent him an email asking him to not require me to do all his personal assistant stuff anymore, and that I was done and needed to use my time for our things. I also asked him to not come into my yard when he sees me outside because I try to get bird and nature pics and he always pops over and scares my subjects away after I have sat quietly for 20 minutes to try to get a shot. He was always creeping up behind me out of nowhere when I was out and always pestering me to stop whatever I was doing and go do his stuff. He has a perennial flower assortment in his yard and has several yard tours each year. Our yard is extremely well landscaped with many unique trees, bushes and perennials, and when he gives his tours all of his guests can easily see into our yard since he built his up so much, and they all comment about our yard and ask questions about what we have over here. This burns him up and he always says, "Eyes over here, this is a day for flowers," which always stuns his guests. We have always done a lot of digging and landscaping, and we have often encountered bones that appear to be femurs and the like. This guy always comes running over and says not to call the authorities and that the people before us buried a bunch of dogs in our yard, and also that this property used to be an Indian burial ground and that it also used to be a trash dumping site back in the 1800s. We asked him what was the big deal if we took it to have it checked out, and he said that if a human bone was found here, the state would come and dig up all his precious daylilies. So we have a running joke that he is a serial killer. Which, by the way guys, is not exactly the funniest joke in this situation, because that guy certainly does not seem to have a sound mind. Anyway, another really weird thing this guy does is he opens and closes every car door, including his trunk, every time he comes or goes, and several times throughout the day. And by the way guys, this kind of sounds like a tic, something that many people have, although usually it doesn't really involve car doors. Either way, sometimes he will come outside, do the open and close routine, move his car forward a foot or two, and then go back inside. Then a little later he will come out and do it all again, but move his car back to where it was originally. His driveway is right beside my office/computer window, so I could see him coming and going and hear all the openings and closings of doors and trunks all day before we put the privacy evergreens there. He always opens his passenger door to place any tiny object that he is taking with him, such as an envelope, on the passenger seat instead of just putting it over there after getting in his driver's side. Oftentimes he will put said small object into the trunk instead. He often returns home and opens the trunk to pull out the tiniest things. He will lock the doors and take his small item inside and then come back out a minute or two later and open and close all the doors again and retrieve one more small item. He will do this routine and retrieve his items one at a time until he is finished. It's such a distracting noise, hearing 100 car doors opening and closing all day. It makes no sense, and I wonder if he is doing it because he is crazy or if he is trying to irritate or distract me or just get my attention. I have no idea. And to be honest, Ripe Stars, in this situation I would assume that obviously this guy is nuts, but indeed he seems to try to get the attention of OP by doing all this random stuff, and I guess in the end he just tries to find a reason to have some sort of confrontation with OP to make her as uncomfortable as possible. Either way, one day he came to my front door with a high-end Nikon camera and user manual and instructed me to go ahead and read the manual and learn how to use the camera so that I could show him how to use it. At that point, I had seriously had about enough and told him he can read and he can go through the manual and learn it for himself. That would have taken me many hours to do. He didn't appreciate that at all. Once he showed up and dropped off an antique slide viewer that was broken and instructed me to take it apart and fix it, that he needed it by set date a couple of weeks ahead, I returned it to him a few days later and said I'm not any sort of technician and I cannot fix it. A few days later he brought it back again and told me I didn't try hard enough and that I was to fix it for real this time. I held onto it for a few months and then returned it saying I tried like hell to fix it, but I couldn't. As of now, I've not had to look at that damn thing again. We had a windstorm a few months ago and a small tree limb off of one of our large pine trees broke and fell into our yard. The limb happened to hang slightly into his yard while it was attached, so in his mind it was his limb and we were not to touch it. He came stomping over here complaining that we cut the branch. He was livid and wouldn't drop it. We told him we didn't touch it and the wind broke it, but he will not drop it. It is our tree though, and we can cut it if we want anyway. I have a million stories to tell about this guy, but I doubt many people will get this far into my story as it is. It did feel nice to vent at least. Thanks for reading and allowing me to vent. Edit: after getting many comments about why I am still allowing this behavior, I need to clarify that a couple of years ago when I said I told him I wasn't going to do all of his assistant stuff for him anymore and to not come over here anymore, he has not come over except for once and I just shook my head and came back inside without saying a word. He left and has not come back yet. He has gone to my husband's work a couple of times though. He has not called or texted or emailed either. That part is over, thankfully. We still have to deal with other things, but I mainly just wanted to see if this was as bad as I feel it is, or if I am just too sensitive because I have the willies so badly. Most people have been helpful and supportive and have made very helpful suggestions, which I am thankful for. As for the 3 or 4 bones we have found while digging, many tree holes over the years, they could be to all kinds of animals, including small barnyard animals that people around here used to have running in their yards. We did not take it very seriously, but it is still creepy, especially after what he said. He is just so weird in so many ways and says odd things all the time. We really don't think he is a killer for real, it's more of a joke. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, I want to ask you for a favor. If you have watched until here, please check out my new channel called The Readers, where I and other voice actors post daily stories that you will very much enjoy. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again tomorrow.